I love being out on the water, whether it's, open ocean racing or it's flat water. It's a huge amount of enjoyment for me. I like the competitive elements behind it, but also at the same time, it really allows me to reflect on some of the important things of life. It's amazing how, despite all I've been through, my life will always be defined by one moment, one event. Sure, competing in the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta was a defining moment for me. Carrying the American flag and leading my teammates in Sydney to compete again in 2000 was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And having the opportunity to speak, to teach, and compete since then has been a huge privilege in my life. But all of these experiences lead us back to the fateful day, the day I nearly lost my life in a construction accident. On November 19th, 1986, it was a chilly November morning and a typical workday for me. I was instructed to operate the jackhammer, and I was using this jackhammer for about 15 minutes, and all of a sudden, boom, right there, I ended up hitting 3 unmarked buried high voltage cables. There was such a large amount of electricity that was going through these cables, it actually blasted me out of the hole. I ended up sliding back down into the ditch, and there was the energized jackhammer vertically embedded into the power cables, and my knees essentially got sucked back into the energized jackhammer, and that's when I received my second round of electrical shock. The electricity was just shooting throughout my body, and it was finding all these different weak points, the back of my head, my shoulder blades, and those were some of the exit wounds, along with I had 2 toes that were blown off on my right leg. But most of the damage was to the knee area where it came in contact with the jackhammer for the second time, and I had about 1/3 of the knee compartment that was blown away on both of my knees. I was very fortunate because the firefighters were very close by. My heart had stopped because of the large amount of electricity, and they revived me, and then they ended up transporting me to the hospital. And that's where my mother came, and she can actually see the smoke, which was smoldering from my knee area, and that's when my family knew that I was in a lot of trouble, let alone trying to survive. What can I say about an accident like that? It changed my life. Nobody thought I'd be able to walk again. It took nearly 15 surgeries to rebuild my legs and over 3 years before I was able to take a single step without crutches. It's amazing that by today's standards, a simple call, a bit of paint or colored flags would have made a difference. It would have made the difference between me leaving that site on November 19th, 1986 in an ambulance or on my own 2 feet.
Over the past decades, our underground infrastructure has become increasingly complex and congested. As a result, it becomes a serious issue of safety every time we dig. From simple projects like planting a tree or installing a fence, to extensive excavation that involves entire sidewalks, city streets, or agriculture lands. It is important for anyone, for everyone, to call 811 before they dig. 811 is our national one-call number, connecting excavators with their local communications center wherever they are located. The communications center's job is to notify all facility operators with lines in the vicinity of your intended dig site so that they may respond and mark their lines. Depending on state law, the free call to 811 should be made at least 2 or 3 business days before digging is set to begin, to provide enough time for the area to be marked. Neglecting this important step and choosing to dig without having underground utilities marked is choosing to put your crew and the public at risk.
How are you doing this afternoon?
Good, about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for coming out. So, what are we looking at here? Looks like we have a lot of high-tech and low-tech equipment here to be able to mark some of these lines.
Absolutely. We use paint and flags to mark where the lines are at. We use this utility locator to help us identify where the line's at under the ground.
So when somebody calls 811, who calls you to come out to mark?
Well, when you call 811, the facility owner gets notified of where you're digging, and they call us and tell us to go out and mark.
So these flags actually carry a lot of authority and a lot of power. They essentially mark where the underground lines are, and they can ultimately save lives.
Definitely, definitely.
Anyone planning to dig must wait the required amount of time to allow all underground utilities to be marked. If markings are disturbed, vandalized, or otherwise worn away in the time between marking and the completion of your project, the Communications Center should again be notified so that your site may be remarked accurately. There are many opportunities during an excavation where safety precautions can and should be taken, because most accidents can be avoided.
As a first responder, our primary consideration is always scene safety. And because we want to make sure that we are protecting the victim, and we also want to make sure that we're protecting the public. We can't stress enough the importance of dialing 811 before digging. It's the law.
Every excavator has the ability to lead by example, to practice safe digging habits, and remain dedicated to the goal of zero accidents on your dig site.
Hi, Cliff.
Hi, Megan. How you doing?
I'm good. Looks like you've got a project here.
We do. So what does an excavator need to know in the event that they do damage to a utility?
First thing you need to think is communication. And should it be a gas line, your first step needs to be to dial 911. And after the authorities have secured the scene, call 811. And for other non-emergency damages, even little things like scrapes and dents and scratches can cause big issues down the road. So always call 811 and the facility owner.
So what is the best tip for an excavator if they're going to go ahead and excavate on a site?
Keep in mind those fundamental steps. Call 811 before you dig. Give that locate technician the time to come out and mark underground lines. Then respect the flags and the marks on the ground. And when you do need to dig, if you need to come close to where those marks are within the tolerance zone, don't use mechanized equipment. Use hand tools. You've got to dig safely out there.
Safety, that's the most important thing. And you know, it's not just the employee out on the job site, it's the loved ones at home. That's where it's affected mostly. 25 years ago, when I was involved in my accident, you could see the power of the utility as it blew through my boot. So important to be able to go to work and come home in the same condition.
Couldn't agree more. Safety needs to be our top priority.
A handful of simple steps can help make your excavation site accident-free, protecting the public and your excavation crew from injuries and worse. Calling 811 or submitting an online locate request through your communication center's website is the first step. Waiting to have your site located and making sure the marks are intact and accurate before you dig comes next. And finally, digging carefully with respect for the marks and the underground utilities is critical. It doesn't matter what equipment you are digging with, be it a backhoe, horizontal directional drill, jackhammer, or even simply a hand shovel. Care must be taken, especially within the tolerance zone, because accidents can happen to anyone.
We're never prepared for a traumatic experience. And I learned that, you know what? I can only be the best person that I can be. So I'm gonna have to put 100% energy into my rehab process. So each and every step was very difficult, but I had to learn and I had to believe. I didn't even know if I was ever going to be able to walk again, and going to being able to have this honor of representing my country 2 times in the Olympic Games and carrying that flag. You know, how does that correlate between the two? It all goes down to belief. You got to believe in yourself. It's that hard work. It's that determination. It's being able to go out there and build on your foundation. We've got to be able to set those goals, and going out there and being that best person that you can be. That's how you're going to achieve your goal. And you got to believe in it. You got to have faith.
An accident-free dig site is our goal. Dedication to the goal of safe digging is a shared responsibility between the excavator, the locator, the facility operators, and the communication centers that connect them.
Worksite incidents are a traumatic experience not only for the individual or the victim per se, but also for the co-workers and the family. Having a new family member in my life, a beautiful daughter, it really hits home hard. It's just so important to be able to come home in the same condition that you came to work. We never know what we're going to face tomorrow in our lives. Perfect practice makes perfect. It applies like that in sport. You always have to go out there and work on your fundamentals. The same applies when you're out on the work site. Practicing safety, you have to do that every day.
You are choosing to be a hero every time you take the steps to have your dig site accurately marked, keeping your crew and the public safe. Because safe digging is often as simple as knowing what's below. Be a hero. Respect the flags. Brought to you by Blue Stakes of Utah.